Hey guys, Sean here from Purge the Alien, and as you can see I have in my hands the new chapter approved rule book. So what I want to do is I'm going to go over a few of the chapters in this book and discuss some of the new rules and whatnot. So I'm going to talk about our matched play missions, I'm going to go over some ladder campaigns, and then I'm also going to go through some of the faction rules. I want to talk about the Genestealer Cults, Imperial Knights, and Tau. So, going to the match play rules. A lot of you may remember GW came out with some leaks of this book and they wanted to talk about some of the rules. Those are now in play officially. So we've got the boots on the ground rule, which when determining which player controls an objective marker, we're going to exclude all units that have the flyer battlefield role. These units can also never control objective markers. That's huge. Being a Chaos player with a Helldrake, I don't like that very much because I'm not happy with those rules. Anyways, so we're going to go to Understrength Support. This one's also should be familiar. Understrength units can only be included in Auxiliary Support detachments. The Targeting Characters rule is a little interesting. An enemy character with less than 10 wounds can only be targeted if it is both visible to the firer and it is the closest enemy model to the firer. This means that if any other enemy model is closer, whether it is visible or not, then the enemy character cannot be targeted. And then we also have limits of command. You cannot use the command reroll stratagem to affect mission dice rolls. Mission dice rolls include any dice rolls that are made before the battle begins, such as those determined who chooses the deployment zones or who gets the first turn, those that must be made at the end of a battle round, such as rules determining the end of the battle, or any rules that determine how many victory points are awarded to a player. I also noticed some of the missions will say that you can't use a reroll for these certain abilities that's done during the mission. Speaking of missions, we have 12 new missions. We have 6 new Eternal War, and we also have 6 new Maelstrom of Wars. So the Eternal Wars are pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to playing these guys. If you're familiar with them, Eternal War are basically end-game objective missions, where you set up throughout the entire game to take over certain objectives. The nice thing about this is a fresh take on all of them. I don't think they don't have the relic in here anymore either, which is kind of a surprise. Everybody loves the relic, right? Anyway, so with the Eternal War, we usually have the standard Slay the Warlord, First Blood Linebreaker. The deployment hasn't changed from what you should know from the first set of 8th edition rules. And the only thing that is going to vary is just how we achieve victory points throughout it. Some of them may be ascending objective markers. I think I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but there was one that the longer you hold an objective, the more victory points it's worth, and I think that would have to be with a character and so forth. So I'm looking forward to playing through all these Eternal War missions. I'm sure you'll see lots of battle reports with them, but everybody's favorite Maelstrom of War missions are also all fresh. If you remember from the 8th edition rulebook, they are very stagnant. Very little was different about it, maybe some of the number of objective markers and whatnot, but they were very boring. The new Maelstrom of War missions have been revitalized and they have a lot of life to them. Each mission is very different. You'll see that some of them will incorporate stratagems, some of them will have different victory conditions. Most of them will still have the Slay the Warlord, First Blood, and Linebreaker, but we'll have different deployments. The tactical objectives, the way they're used, are cool. These will be very fun to use, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot of battle reports using these guys as well. Speaking of doing battle reports and doing match play missions, they also have a new set of rules for ladder campaigns. Ladder campaigns are cool. If you're not familiar with them, it's just a great way to organize a simple game league or at a club. Basically someplace that meets regularly, or if you have a lot of time. You can run a bunch of people in a league and they can battle out and basically do, climbing a ladder, whoever's at the top, or like King of the Hill style campaigns. These look really fun. They have a great layout for keeping track of points and adding newcomers to the campaign and whatnot. These look like they're going to be fun to do, and I think we're probably going to be getting one going here on Purge the Alien. So now what everybody's really looking forward are the faction rules. So I'm going to start with the Genestealer Cults. They are pretty awesome. Where am I at here? Let me find my page. Being that the melee monsters that they are, they've just got a huge boost. So we now can take a warlord trait with them, which is pretty cool. It's the focus of adoration. I can't read that, my bad. Anyways, friendly Genestealer Cult infantry units can perform a heroic intervention while they are within 6 inches of this warlord, even if they are not characters. That is awesome. Infantry units doing heroic interventions is very cool. Nice touch for Genestealer Cults. And then also their relic, we can do basically add one to the strength characteristic of a friendly Genestealer Cult infantry unit while they're within 6 inches of the bearer. Also very nice to have. And then they also gained 2 stratagems. The first one is going to be Return to the Shadows, so we can use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select a Genestealer Cults infantry unit from your army that is more than 6 inches away from an enemy model. Remove that unit from the battlefield. At the end of your next movement phase, that unit returns to the battlefield using the Cult Ambush ability. 1 command point for that one. And then we also have the Meticulous Uprising, also 1 command point. We can use this stratagem before rolling on the Cult Ambush table. Roll 2 dice instead of 1 and choose either of the results. If the unit you are rolling for is a Primus or is arriving along with a Primus, roll 3 dice instead of 1 and select any of the 3 results. Very cool with these guys. And then we're going to have the Imperial Knights. So you'll notice up here they do have a designer's note, which basically says that you can have, as long as you have a battle-forged Imperial Knight army, you can give one of the models the character keyword. And with that, you can use a warlord trait and a relic, right? So the warlord trait is kind of cool. We can add 1 to the warlord's attack characteristic, which is very nice on an Imperial Knight, especially depending on the loadout you give them. And then the relic is the Ravager, which you may be familiar with this one, but basically we get a plus 6 strength, -3 AP, and 6 damage, which we can also reroll hit rolls of 1 for this weapon. I think it's perfect to give a Warlord Imperial Knight. Then we also have a 1 command point stratagem here, and basically what it is, rotate Iron Shields. We can add 1 to any invulnerable saving throws made for that unit until the end of the phase. I really like that. Imperial Knights, I feel like they need some more strength. They're very expensive for what they are, and I don't feel like they last too long in this edition. But anyways, that's just my personal taste. So going through Tau, Tau is very cool. They actually gave them 2 warlord traits. So we've got the Exemplar of Kion. I cannot pronounce these guys either, I'm sorry. But we can also re-roll failed hit rolls for your warlord as long as they have not moved this turn. If they have moved for any reason, they lose this trait until the start of their next turn. And then the Exemplar of Montka. This warlord can advance and shoot as if it hadn't moved this turn. And then the Tau Relic, which is also very nice. Once per battle, you can re-roll a single hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll made for the bearer or friendly unit within 6 inches of the bearer. In addition, if your army is battle-forged and the bearer is on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you or your opponent uses a stratagem. On a 6, you gain a bonus command point. Nice. I like that a lot. Very strong. And I feel like Tau needs all the boost they can get right now. And then they have a stratagem, Uplinked Marker Light. Use this stratagem after an enemy unit has been hit by a marker light fired by a model from your army. Place D3 plus 1 marker light counters next to that unit instead of only 1. Well, I hope you enjoyed our chapter approved review, and thank you guys for watching.